Hey everyone, and welcome to Chris Makes Props. And with our first build ever on this channel, we're going to start making the Rogue One Rebel Soldier helmet. Let's see how this works out. Today's build is sponsored by the Cargo Hold, an amazing Star Wars group for collectors showcasing their collections, buying and selling items, and generally geeking out over Star Wars. So a massive thank you to the Cargo Hold. Okay, so we're going to build the Rogue One Rebel Soldier helmet. Apologies if you hear my 3D printing in the background. I'm actually printing some last parts for this helmet just now, but I thought I would first show you all the different elements I have, just to sort of see, so you can see what it is I'm going to put together, what I'm going to build, etc, etc. So, the main part of the body is an M1 helmet. I got this. It's actually got the full lining with the head straps, all that sort of stuff. Really good quality, proper metal. Got this on Amazon of all places. It was about £35 in the UK. So I got this on there. So that will work as the base for the helmet. I then got the STL files on Golden Armor. So Golden Armor, who is a prop maker, sells various STL files for some of the stuff that he does, and Rogue One, the soldier helmet, is one of them. So I've already printed out on AMS. I used AMS because I just wanted something a bit stronger, works better than the heat, etc, etc. So I printed out the base, or the sort of covering that would go over the top of the helmet like that. So I'll have that. I've got the two of them printed because I'm building two of these helmets. Printed out okay. I did get a little error in one of the prints. It's got this line here, so there'll be a bit of sanding, adding some Bondo and various other things. You'll see all the process I'll go through to making this look better and go through the painting aspect. So I'll be making two of these. Now with this, there is a couple of different items which I'm going to show you that go part of this. So the main part is actually the covering. Now, I don't have a sewing machine. I was never going to be able to make this part. So that's the covering that goes over the M1 helmet, which I'm actually going to check shortly because I've not actually seen if this actually fits. It should, but I've never actually seen if it fits. So I have two of these. I got these. They're really well made. Fantastically made coverings. Padding and everything else, really, really top notch. I'm going to weather these. I'm going to scuff these up a little bit, things like that, make them look more worn. So these coverings I actually got on Etsy. Like I say, I do not have a sewing machine. I would never be able to make these myself. Wouldn't even know where to start. Can't even use a needle and thread. But I got these on Etsy from Mr. Hemming's workshop. He does a number of different coverings for different types of Star Wars helmets and hats and various other things. So I've got two of these, and these will fit over, hopefully, the M1 helmet that I bought, which we'll check in a second. So a couple of these, which are then going to, like I say, weather up, scuff, make look dirty, make look worn, etc. So that's that part. I also, for the inside of the helmet, so you have these holes here, sort of little holes here and stuff like that, and they're all over the place. So basically all the way where there's a sort of hole, there's actually a netting underneath that. So I went online and I ordered this through, double check, fabricuk.com. So I got that here, and I got this black army netting, which is like this stuff here with holes in it, stuff like that, as you can see. So that is going to get cut. It's going to go in the inside, covering these part for the holes, and that will then look the part when it's over the top as well. So I have that as part of it. So we drop that down here just now. There's also black rubber bands that go round. That's so I'm currently 3D printing. There's like the death sticks, basically a cigarette box, death sticks box here. There's a couple of other things which we'll go on to, and there's basic black rubber bands that hold all that in place. Again, went on Amazon. Links down below. You get a box of them, and I have a box of these black rubber bands, which will stretch over the helmet. 2 or 3 of these across, and that will give that look as well. Now, on the side, there's actually a little pretend camera thing on the strap, which I'm printing just now. That will be painted and go on the strap. I'm maybe going to look to get proper lenses for them rather than just 3D printing sort of little transparent lenses. I'd like to try and do that with proper lenses if it's all possible. So we're going to see what prints out at the size and then have a look online. But here there is a little lens, always like a little camera lens that appears in the bottom one here. And I got, as part of the 3D or the STL files from Golden Armor, there was the NSTL to print out the clear thing, clear transparent lens, and a little circle, so it makes it look like a camera lens. I wanted to take it an extra step forward, so I got these, again on Amazon, links down below. And I thought this might be quite interesting. So there's two of these, as you can see there. But that there, if I take the cover off, you might see that is a proper camera lens. So these are little camera lenses that you can fit onto electronics, as you can see there. Yeah, I'm looking over my glasses because I'm half blind. So that is then going to sit in here. I'm going to have to maybe use a 3D circle part to fill that part of it in to still use the outside of it. But then there's going to be a proper actual camera lens in there. I just thought that would give it an extra look. And to be honest, I actually like this ribbon thing as well. Maybe going to use that on the inside and just have it attached up the top of the inside. And it'll make it look like as if it's actually connected to something or something like that. A bit silly, but it might work, whatever that will be. So I'll maybe add that in now as well. So I have a proper camera lens for that. And if I can get that for the little camera lens part that fits on the strap, which is currently printing, as I say, I'm going to try and do something similar with a bigger lens, rather than just trying to print out an STL or a transparent lens. Try and get something that actually looks like a camera lens. So I have two of these. These were inexpensive, again on Amazon. You get two in a pack, and I'm going to use them. And finally, at the sides, the STL files again came with a flashlight for the side. So it's like a flashlight that appears on the side of the helmet. Hopefully I'm throwing up a picture just now so you can see what that looks like. But instead of using the STL, again, me being me, went on Amazon. I seem to buy everything from Amazon. I got these, and they come in a 2-pack. And they're little USB flashlights. So you can charge them up at the back. The little flashlights, as you can see. Different strengths, etc. Flashing and all that sort of stuff. That is what I'm going to put on the side. So it'll be a proper flashlight on the side of the helmet. So it's fully working, to fully charge it up. I'm just going to weather this. I might use the STL files to use the covering around this to maybe put that over the top. Just to add some more detail to it, the ribbing, etc., etc. Get rid of the branding, all that sort of stuff. It will cover up. We'll cover up all the usual stuff that's on these things. So I'll maybe use that on there as well. Measure the size of this, blow up, cut a hole through it, and so this slots inside, and then I'll have some sort of covering over the top. But some of the detail on this I do like, so I like the front part of this. So I may only have the detail over this middle section. Because I do like the sort of detail that's on this. I think it just looks apart, and that will fit on the side of the bucket as well. And like I say, I have two of these because I'm building two helmets, and again, one will be raffled off once it's all finished and complete. So, as I say, got lots of prepared work, so there's going to be some sanding to do along here. I'll probably put Bondo over the top. Now, one of the things I normally do, I have tested out with 3D prints before I started making this video, is if you print in PLA, you can use Bondo with an acetone mix. So normally with these sort of things, you would use straight off Bondo, add it onto some of the rougher areas, places that need smoothed out before sanding. But then the rest of it, you maybe use the acetone Bondo mix to then basically paint over that Bondo. And that helps just fill in some of the gaps and some of the sort of ridges, etc., that you normally get with 3D prints. And that would work with PLA. You cannot use acetone on ABS. That actually eats through ABS. So acetone will damage the ABS plastic and start eating through it. So you cannot use that. So for this one, it's going to take a bit longer. I'm going to have to put on some straight Bondo. Hopefully the primer filler will fill in some of the rest of the gaps once I've sanded all this down. we'll see how that goes. I just wanted to use ABS because it is a stronger material. Now, this is quite thin, but it is a stronger material. It works better with the heat, etc., especially if these were out of or outside. And yeah, I just thought I'd give it a go. So I probably gave myself a little bit more work by printing in ABS, but the end result should hopefully be better. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to set these down just now. And I'm just going to see with one of these helmets, the hope that this fits over the top. And so I'm just going to put some of these down, get rid of some of these bags, put down it. So let's see if this fits over the top. So I'm assuming that is the back, that is the front. So this should, there we go, fits the looks of it. Let's put that over the top. So glad it fits. Which seems to, anyway, there we go. Now how that works for the straps, I'll need to see, because that's going over the straps, and the straps are actually, don't know if that's the way it's meant to go. It looks like it's possibly way, but once I get the plastic and the other bits over it, you'll never see that. That now fits, as you can see, over the helmet. It's going to look stretch, make sure it all goes over fine. And now that's me got a really good base for when I put the, look it up, this part, that will then sit over the top once it's all done and painted. So you can start to see that already coming together in terms of the logo and helmet. So a bit of work to be done. So, and one of the first things I'm probably going to do is just start with the 3D. So once that's drying and being sanded, I can then work on weathering the covering as well and start to do that. So yeah, so got the everything I really need. Like I say, there's a couple of bits printing out just now for the def sticks, etc. And hopefully you'll start to see this coming together. This should all basically be done, hopefully fairly within 1 or 2 days, once I let things dry. So the thing about, I'm just going to sort of highlight this as well. The thing about this, normally, and you'll see my process when I do this, I'll talk through the reasons why, but just to give you a quick sort of idea of what I'm going to be doing, is once I've sanded this all down, so I'll make sure it's sanded, smooth as I can, like with Bondo and the filler, etc. I will then give it a coat of primer filler, sand that down again. There's the 3D prints, you're going to have lots of sanding, so then sand that down again, try to get as smooth as possible. It may need another primer filler, sanded again. Then once you've got that, I've got a chrome spray paint. I'll show you the makes and all that as I'm going through those stages. Chrome sort of spray paint, which I'm then going to do as a chrome base, and then a sort of camouflage sort of green covering over the top of that. What a lot of people tend to do when they build props or even do models, etc., and I've done it myself, is they'll paint it the base colour, so say the camouflage green, and then just put the scuffs with sort of chrome paint or anything like that over the top, to give the effect that it's been damaged. It looks great for the most part, but what I tend to find is, and from all the videos that I've seen online, the look that I want to get is it be a bit more natural looking, is if you paint it in the chrome first, then overlay, then mask parts out on the chrome, so you mask the bits, mask some of the damage, etc., then spray your green on top of it, pull off the masking, the masking fluid or whatever it is you use. I'm going to be trying a couple of different methods to see which works best. But you pull that off, and then from that, you may then do another colour, do a different type of colour over the top, do more masking rather, do another colour over the top, and then pull that, and you'll start to layer up. And by layering up the paint, it looks more natural, as if something's been damaged. So what I'm probably going to do is, once it's been base coated, do the chrome. Once the chrome's been done, do a black overlay at the top. Let me start again. I'm going to do the chrome, mask, black, pull off the mask once it's all dry, mask again, making it slightly wider, green paint over the top, and that way you'll get the sort of the chrome, the black, the green, and you'll start to build up those colours over the top. So that's the idea, and it should look more natural. And then I'll do the weathering of the covering as well. So let's just go into it. Let's just start with sanding, prepping these, and I'll show you what it is I'm going to be doing with these, and hopefully you can make this work without you breaking anything, doing anything damage-wise, and yeah, let's see how this works. Let's get on with it. Okay, so before I start sanding and prepping this, a few things I would probably say you need. I'll show you some of the stuff that I've got before we go through this whole process. I've obviously got my 3D prints, got them ready to go. I'm sitting outside because I don't want to have all the dust in my man cave. Luckily, I'm in Scotland, Glasgow. There's no rain at this moment in time, so a few things I would suggest that you need. I've got a covering, my overalls, or an apron, because you will get a lot of dust when you're using Bondo and things like that as well. In fact, that you can see all the dust coming from the Bondo on this thing, which needs a clean, so just keep it off your clothes. Anyway, that's one thing I would suggest. Coffee, tea, whatever is your preference, have that handy as well, always good to have. Anytime you're sanding, always have good PPE. I'm using a proper 3M mask. This will just keep all the small bits of plastic out of your lungs, things like that. Trust me, you do not want that crap in your lungs. It's just like asbestos in the past and stuff like that. I know you. If you get that in your lungs, you can seriously do yourself some damage. So anytime you're doing stuff like that, be in a well-ventilated room or outside, have a mask on, whether you think you're outside or not. Just wear one of these things, trust me, because you don't want to breathe this stuff in. In terms of sanding, a few things that I've got. I've obviously got your traditional sandpaper, various grits. I'll probably start off with something like a 200 grit, 240 grit, work my way up to get smoother and smoother. So I've got them as well. To get into sort of smaller areas and things like that, so these little bits here, which obviously is going to be harder for sandpaper, etc. I've got these, they're called sanding sticks, again, off of Amazon, and you get different grit in terms of them, so they'll get into the little fine areas to allow you to then sand those down. Got them as well, so those are handy. I have my Bondo, so you can use this, or sometimes you can use things like wood filler, that type of thing. This stuff's meant to be the best, which I've not seen any issues with so far. You put it on, it's what they use in the car industry for putting over dents and scrapes and things like that. Can be quite, again, be outside, wear ventilation, and you'll be good for that. And the one that's maybe a little bit out there is this. This, believe it or not, is a little foot sander. So for sanding the bottom of your feet to get rid of hard skin, it comes with basically sandpaper on the bottom of it. It's a little foot sander. They're fairly inexpensive. Again, got this on Amazon. This is not a plug for Amazon, by the way. I just order everything from Amazon. This just makes life easier. And then, like I said, this will go over some of the initial sanding, just to get rid of some of the stubborn parts, the bits around here, which are maybe not quite as smooth. Basically, what I'm going to do is sand down first before I apply any Bondo, just to try and make it as smooth as possible. Go over some of the top parts and do that side of it as well. So this will be what I'll be using first. Fingers crossed, all going well, that will work. So let me get a little sip of my coffee. And put on my mask. I need to take off my glasses. And then from there, I will put on the mask, and then we'll start sanding. And you'll see the process of the sanding that I'm going to be doing. So I'll probably sound a bit muffled once I start doing this. So apologies if you cannot hear me. I'm going to plug this in. Plug here. That there. So this should just come on. That's all going well. Okay, little sand up. This works. Just goes round and round and round. You can get different speeds as well. It's got a little thing on it to make this for the speed. So let's turn it off just now. And then I'm going to look at this one. So I've got some lines here that I want to try and get rid of. Smooth out some of this. No, the primer filler, let me just take this off. I also don't want to hit the microphone as well. So, let me take this off just briefly. So, I'm going to sand these lines and do that. Just sand some of this down just to try and make it smooth as possible. As I say, the edges when you get to 3D print are always a bit ropey. So, I'm just going to sand that down, make it a little bit more smoother before I put the Bondo on. And then I'll use the little sticks for the inside. The inside, I'm not going to worry about too much. I'll just spray paint that the way it is. I don't want it to be white. I will spray paint it with primer filler, all that sort of stuff. But I just want to more concentrating the outside. The inside will be painted, but you're never going to see that anyway once it's over the top. And yeah, so let's just see if I can get rid of some of these lines. So again, apologies if you don't hear me when I put this on. Well, maybe we'll do a montage when I'm doing all this. Let's bring you a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got this here. As I turn this on, you see, spinning around. And I'm just going to go along the edges to begin with. And that is already looking a lot smoother. You probably can't see that on camera, but that's looking a lot smoother already compared to, here we see all the little lumps and bumps and things like that. I don't know if you'll see that there. But you'll see all the little lumps and bumps hopefully, and it's already starting to take some of that away. I'm not looking to take it all away. The Bondo will do a lot of the other work, but let's just get it as smooth as possible. Okay, that's already looking a lot smoother. I've just taken away some of the little crappy bits that were over the top. When I go over it with sandpaper, that will get rid of some of the rest of it. Some of the wee bits here, but over the top of that is fine. This one's fine because that edge is fine because that was what was lying against the bed on the 3D printer. Whereas that one had supports. Anywhere it's got the supports is where you're not really going to get the smoother line, but that I am already really happy with. I'll just do a couple of bits around here as well, across the other side, and that one will be done ready for the manual sanding. So let's just continue with some more of the foot sander. Okay, so I have sanded both of these down just to make them a little bit smoother. Still to do these, and I only used the foot sander just now. And also with here, had these couple of lines going across. They're fairly smooth already. I might take another wee quick one of that, because I can still feel a little raised. This one was fine, but I gave it a little sand. Should have my mask on, so this is just briefly to show you. Turn this on, and I'm just going to go over with the edge just to try and smooth out those lines a wee bit further, and then the Bondo and the primer will do the rest. I'm going to do that again. Should be wearing the mask, but I'm only just doing this quickly so you hear what I'm saying. There we go. That's a lot smoother. I don't want to get rid of any of the details, so I'm being as careful as possible. But that's smooth, or as smooth as it can be. So I think I'm done with the foot sander. I'm just going to take a wee sip of coffee again. And now I'm going to start sanding in the middle parts. So I'm going to find the right grip of sandpaper here from the sanding sticks. So let's see what I've got. That's 100 grit. It's 320. 180. 180 is what I might use. Let's see which ones I've got. Like 80, which is the same as the foot sander. The 240, a 120. I might actually go for the 120 first, actually, just to get some of the inside ones, and then I'll go over it again with a smoother one. So let's go for one of these. Take out one of them. That's them, little sanding stick. Basically sandpaper either side on a piece of board or whatever it is. And basically what I'm going to do, take my glasses off again, is I'm just going to go into these middle parts. Let's bring you in a bit sooner, quicker, closer as well. And I'm just basically going to do that just to sand away any imperfections. Just try and make it as smooth as possible. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing with this. So let's just do that just now. And again, Bondo and then primer filler will fill in some of the gaps, but you still want to try. Sanding is one of those things that it's a pain in the backside. But the more you prep and the more you get it to begin with, the better it's going to be. And I found that when I'm making just general models and things like that, and just other things I found online, stuff I had to tell you how to do these things, is just try and prep as much as possible. Make your life a lot easier when you're coming to the actual good part, which is the painting and everything else, and the weathering and stuff like that. So again, I should actually have my mask on, which I'm going to put back on while I do the rest of it. So that one is looking better already. So I'm going to do the rest of them. I'm going to get my mask on and we'll get the rest of that done. Time for the PP. What's the sanding? Sanding is a way of life. Can't wait for the day when they make 3D printers work and they print out flawlessly, so you don't need to sand. I'm sure that day will come at some point. Or maybe it's just wishful thinking. Okay, so I've done the sanding sticks in between all the little bits there. I've got them as smooth as I possibly can get them, I think, at this moment in time. Once I get the Bondo in it, I will do a bit more. And that will smooth it out even further. But I think that will do for those parts. And now I'm just going to give a bit of sand with sandpaper across a whole lot, just to try and smooth it out even further. So that'll go across the whole top or the whole outside, I should say, of the thing. Now, I'm going to show you why you should be using. Let me just flip this round. You can see that there, all that white stuff. That's why you should wear a mask. You do not want to be breathing all that in, for sure. Like I would say, I'm just going to give the rest of it a sand and see how things go, and try and make that as smooth as I can. More sanding to come. This time, I'm going to use 240 grit. Got 240 grit here. Just going to use some of that over the top. Sip of coffee first. Here we go. Once again. Okay, that's been sanded one, and that's actually feeling rather smooth. So, like I say, the primer filler should cover most little bits. But that's turning out to be fairly smooth now. So I'm happy with that. And I'll cover it with primer filler, give it a sand once I've cleaned it all, and see how that is. But basically, now that that's all sanded, I've got to just do a little bit under the side here as well. But once I've done all that, I would then take a shower to it, basically just wash it, leave it to dry, naturally, and it's just to get rid of any of the crap that's over it, all the little bits of dust, the particles, etc. And then once that's off, we can then go on to doing a bit of Bondo and then primer filler. So I'll do the other one now in the same way. And yeah, in fact, I'm just going to do a little bit under here first, and then we'll do the other one and keep continuing. Okay, so had to come back inside. Typical Scottish weather. It started to rain, but I managed to give this a decent sand. I could still feel a little bits here and there, but I managed to give it a sand pretty much all the way around. Really smoothed out the edges. Those are pretty smooth now on both, so I'm really happy with that. But I'm still going to go through some of the edges, some a little bits here and there with some Bondo. I would normally do this outside as well, but again, typical Scottish weather, it started to rain. So again, take my glasses off because I need to go stuff. This stuff stinks. So just take that, and it's basically, it's what they use in the car manufacturers. It's what to cover like scratches and things like that on a car. So a little bit on my finger. I'm basically just going to run it along the edge. You can put it on fairly thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to be, so it's a bit like that. See, just along the edge, just to help smooth things out. Fill in any little indents, gaps, little things like that. So I'm just basically going to do that all the way around. All the way around. I want it thick, but not too thick, just so it's giving it a covering. Because again, we're going to be sanding over this. I also don't want to fill in any, there's two little lines here on here. I don't want to fill in any details as well. So I just want to be careful of these things when I'm putting it on. So this will just help fill in any little imperfections. Then when we sand it down, hopefully that will start to fill in all the little bits. So you can see there as I'm just going all the way around. See the red there? Again, this stuff is strong. I have got the door of my man cave open just to get in some air. But it's just started, it's not heavy rain, but it's just light rain outside, but I don't want to do this and get it wet. So basically, just taking it on my finger, putting it around. I should really probably wear a glove for this. But I sometimes feel when you're wearing a glove, it just gets, I find if gloves have broke before or split, you just can't get it as smooth if you're not using your actual finger. So I'm just going to use my finger here. So you can see that all the way around. And I'm just going to do that all the way around this little rim. So it's all in place. And don't worry about there will be bits that will stick up. It won't be entirely smooth. The smoothness will come when you start to sand it down. So all I need to do there, again, this part is rather smooth because that was it was lying on the bed. I don't need to do anything there. There is a couple of indents here, just small little indents. I'm just going to go through, go around, see the bits that I feel maybe need a little bit of help before sanding, and just cover those up. So you can see here's what I'm doing here. I'm just covering these bits up. Anything I feel just needs to be a little bit smoother. Again, don't expect this to be completely smooth yet. The sanding will help with that. So what we'll do is I'll start to do the rest of this. I'll do the other one. You'll see me doing this. I'll speed things up. And we'll just have a closer look of me actually doing this. So yeah, we'll just start filling Bondo around some of the areas. Okay, you can see there what I've done is I've just filled in the edges around here. Not this part, because that part was on the base of the printer, so that bit was fine. But I just went around here, around the edges of the top and bottom. I also just went over some of the bits with the gaps, but also filled in the inside of the gaps. It doesn't look smooth just now, but once I sand them down, that'll be fine. Did that all the way around here and around here. And when I sand them down, that will fill in some of the little dents and things like that that are there. So that's me done that one. Just made this a bit smoother along here, or put this stuff onto it to help me make it smoother once I sand it. And I'll do this now with the other one. So again, this one's actually okay. There is no real dents or scrapes along the top, so the primer filler should be fine for most of it. But I just wanted to get these bits done. I felt they just needed a wee bit of a helping hand. In fact, under here, underneath this bit, I need to put a little bit more on. So I'll get something just to apply that on there, which will help. So I've got these, they're actually little filing tools, carbon fiber sanding boards. You can put sort of sticky sanding paper over the top just to allow you to sand things in really tight corners, things like that. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to use one of these to use it as an application across some of the bits that I can't go into, and then I'll just wash these off eventually. So just this little sanding. And you can use a credit card, anything you've got, no credit card, whatever that is. So I'm just going to put some on here. And I'm going to try and get into these bits here, just so I can try to make that as smooth as possible. I'll fill in here. Might still be better with my finger, actually. Actually, my finger might actually be better. And then I can sand those bits off. Yeah, finger's better, and I can always scrape out the bits I don't want to be filled in, because I don't want to fill in all these bits of detail. So, but I'll just use my finger. My finger actually seems to be working better than that bit of carbon fibre board. So just keep going along. Because don't worry about any of this sort of coming up here. Again, you're going to sand these bits off with a couple of different types of sanding paper. So put that in there just to make sure that's all smooth. Hit along here. I'm just going to run my finger along just to try and smooth some of it out a little bit more. So that bit there is now filled in as well. And then when I sand this down, hopefully this will become a bit more smoother. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, that's the second one done. Just again went along the edges, some of the inside bits to try and cover much of the insides of the circles. Again, they don't look smooth just now. They will get smooth once I start to sand these down. It's purely there to try and fill in any little gaps before the primer filler goes in. Had a wee bit more over here because there was a line that was on this one. So again, once this sands down, I'll put in that should hopefully help smooth it out. Once this helps sand it down, I'm just going to cover this little bit here as well. So that should smooth that out. And I'll give this another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Let that to dry. And we should be good to then hopefully get back outside and sand this off. The sand away till most of it's gone. You're just trying to get it smooth. Try and make it as smooth as possible. We're using 240, and then we'll go over it again with a sort of 1500 or something like that, just to try and make it that little bit smoother. I'm not leaning too heavy. I'm just giving it a light sand. Making sure any little details are not getting filled in as well. Okay, I've gave these a good sand. I still have to give them a good wash. So I gave them a sand with 240 grit on both. But what I'm now going to do is, you can see here, I don't want these all to fill in. And I want these to be smooth, as well as these lines on the design. I want these to be carved out, not being filled in. So I have my scalpel, although I'm probably going to use this more than anything else. It's a little palette type thing which I've used for modelling in the past. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to go along the edges and just make sure that the lines are still there, the details are still in place, so that these are not being filled in. And that one looks fine. Looks fine there. I'll do the same here. Again, just filling these in, or trying to not make them fill in. See, here's a little bit of Bondo there. I'm just going to get rid of. Going here with this as well, just to make sure these are not filling in. And then what we'll do is I'll give this a last sort of sand with sort of 600 or 800 grit or something like that, just to give it a last little smoothing before I do the primer. No, I maybe went a little bit overboard. The primer probably would have been enough for a lot of this. But I just want to make sure it is completely smooth. I will just make the process of when sanding the primer a little bit easier and just make the overall thing look better. So I'm just going over it, making sure any details are okay and all these little divots and holes. Now I just want to make sure that this is not filled in. So again, going over it with the tool, the pointy end, just making sure that nothing. So you can see here some of the Bondo sand. There's probably a lot of the stuff that I've just sanded as well coming out. But again, it's just to make sure nothing there has been filled in. Okay, done. These are feeling really smooth now. So managed to, let's say, pull out some of the details again, but it's really smooth. I'm not feeling any, can hardly feel any layer lines, anything like that. Like I say, the primer filler will hopefully get rid of most of that. But it's now time for a bath. And then once these have dried, give them a good clean with soapy water, give them a good scrub, and then once dried, they are ready for the primer filler. Though dark clouds are coming in, so I'm going to prime these tomorrow, but you don't need to wait that long. So let's go ahead, give them a wash, and then prime, and you'll see that straight away. Okay, it's the next day. These are now washed. They're looking good, feeling nice and smooth. Don't really feel anything that shouldn't be there. Even the edges feeling really smooth. Not got that sort of. If you know about 3D prints, when you have the supports, you'll always get really bad nodules and things like that. All that's completely smooth, so it should be good for priming. But before I prime, I want to add in some masking tape on the inside, because these bits in here are all going to get glued with the mesh over the top. So every place it's got the little holes, and at the side as well, it's where the torch gets attached, and a few other bits and bobs. So I just want to mask them, because you don't want to be gluing straight onto the paint. So I'm just going to be doing a bit of masking, and then we'll go on to the actual sort of base paint of these as well. So today what I'm hoping to do is to base coat these. And the base coat, if you really want it to cure properly, will take about 24 hours. So I won't be able to sand these again until tomorrow. But what I'll then go on and do is weather the covering for the helmet. So we'll look at weathering that, try to get some marks in there, scuff it up a little bit, things like that. And then look at some of the 3D elements that I need to print out to cover the torch and things like that. So we'll have a look at how I'm going to do that as well. So I have a few things to do today. Still, obviously, can't really do anything until this is primed and sanded with this part, but at least get that to a stage where tomorrow I can then start working on this. So let's just start with some masking, and then we'll go on with the painting. Okay, so I've added the masking tape in the various places for both, as you can see here, just so I know where places are going to be things glued against the white plastic. One thing I'm just trying to figure out is the torch. So the torch is going to sit across here. There's a little piece that goes in the back that this torch will sit on, but there's also, normally with the 3D printed torch, you would have it across here. But this is obviously a real torch, it's a little bit heavier. So it's going to sit something like that, so it's a little bit off-centered. It's not going to interfere with the helmet underneath, etc. So I want it to sit round about that. What I'm planning on doing is printing out part of the 3D piece that covers this part, because it's like a ribbed part, just to cover the wording and things like that here, and the sort of the red. And then I can weather some of this as well. And I also want to keep the USB sort of charger and the on-off switch clear as well, so it can actually be used, but also needs to be pulled out if I possibly. But if I make it tight enough, it might just stay in, and I don't need to glue anything or anything. I don't. I may not want it to remove, to be honest. But I want something like that to be there. So if anything, looking at that, there needs to be a bit of masking tape here, just pay enough to glue on, and I'll probably try and do some other gluing aspects, maybe underneath as well, just to hold something in place. So actually what I'm going to do is just do a little bit more masking tape on this area, in case I need it. Better being safe than sorry. So something like that. And then here, it's going to take a little bit of masking tape. I want this to be a clean line. So I'm just going to cut this with my knife. Look at that. And because it's probably going to go across here, I'm just going to mask that little bit there, just so I've got enough for covering where the glue may go. I'm just going to put that around here, and I can always touch things up with a little bit of paint if need be. So I'm going to just have that little bit there, so I've got enough to glue that on, and I'll do the same with the other one. Again, just covering around here, just enough to give me a little bit of glue and something like that. Like I say, if I need to touch anything up, I'll be able just to touch things up and just dot things in about that. So hopefully my camera's not been shaking around too much because I've been shaking the table. Hopefully it's all good. So these are ready to start applying the primer filler. So let's go outside and we'll start that. Okay, you've got me out beside my bins. Going to be using some General Light primer filler. You can use it any colour you want. It's just to really fill in some of the areas, make sure you're getting a good coverage. Hopefully if there is any imperfections, it should hopefully fill it in before you give it a sand, and then you can start to see how things go with that. But I would recommend using grey. I do use black a lot as well, depending on, I have been up until this point, but I'm now starting to use grey. The reason being is it highlights any layer lines in anything you 3D print or anything like that a lot better, so you can actually see more imperfections. So it's a great way of seeing imperfections if you use the grey primer rather than black or white or anything like that. So what I've got here is I actually 3D printed this. I'll put a link to this in the description below, but this was actually a 3D print I found on Bamboo Studio. You get the little base, there's this little spindle. I printed out about 150% because I wanted a bit bigger, and that fits into here. I then made this base using Tinkercad to make the circle, a little bit of a cutout because I've got stands that can fit in here as well if I'm doing helmets and stuff like that. But this basically allows you to then spin, so when you're spray painting you can then spin this around to stop, or basically to make it easier for you to paint and stuff like that. And all I really do, because again I'm doing this outside, I don't have all the equipment, spare cardboard box, use it to then see how things go, I get a good coverage, and then just start going ahead and start to spray paint the thing. The only thing I'm going to run into the office, I'm going to get myself a glove, because if you're moving things around, you're spray painting, you end up getting your hand full of paint, which I'd rather not do, make it easier to clean. So I'm just going to get a blue glove and then we'll start spray painting. So, blue glove on. So I've got to make sure the hand's protected as much as possible. I'm going to take the first one, sit it on here, and then I'm going to start spray painting. Just make sure you give the can a good shake. I've been doing this a little while, so hopefully this is going to be okay. I want to do a little test coverage first. It is quite, the bad thing about being outside, it's quite windy, so it can be a bit of a pain, especially in Scotland. But that seems to be doing okay. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So let's just go ahead and start framing the helmet. Easy strokes. Again, if you were inside, you probably get a better coverage. I probably waste a lot of spray paint being outside, and it's fairly windy. Let's give it a good coating. You don't want to go too thick initially, so just give it nice easy strokes. It dries quite quickly, and then you go over it again. Now what I can already see is some layer lines already coming up. So a bit of a sand. I might need to put some more Bondo onto this just to get rid of them, but we'll see how it goes with a couple of coats of this. Okay, that's what I'm going to do with the first one. I might give it another little coat once it's had a sort of 30 minutes or so to touch dry. I'll give it a little quick coat, I think. And but yeah, let's go into the next one. So I want to take this one out. That one there. And on to the next. Okay, the joys of the Scottish weather. It started to rain as I was spray painting. So there's a couple of watermarks on the helmets. Just going to try and pick one up. So got them painted, but yeah, a couple of little raindrops on it. But again, I'm going to be sanding this anyway, so it's not too much of an issue. It would only be an issue if it was the main colour that's going to go in the top. But I do see some scan lines, or layer lines on here. So I'm going to give it a sand. Once this is dry, I'm going to give this a full 24 hours. And once it's dry, I'm going to give it a sand. And then we'll see how that looks. May need to use a little bit more Bondo in places just to smooth it out a bit further. But I'm hoping that the sanding will be enough. And then when we give it a normal primer over the top, you won't really see any of the layer lines. So first part done, as you can maybe see there, possibly, hopefully on camera, you see some of the layer lines. But again, when we sand this, hopefully most of that will disappear and we'll be able to make this as smooth as possible. And if it's still not smooth, then we basically have to give another primer filler sand until basically those lines go away. But I'm hoping we just need to do that once and then a primer and we'll be good to go. And we'll see how we get on from there. The next episode is all about weathering, and I'll be making vats of tea and coffee to help me weather cloth, using real dirt to weather some of the items, and ultimately trying out some new techniques to see if I can make this prop look more realistic.